Welcome back. So if you didn't catch part one of today's live, I had a little emergency just popped up and the phone was blowing up that I had to go handle it right away. When work calls, it calls. So I am back now. So hopefully some people will circle back in and join me here as I answer some more funeral home, embalming, crematory, cemetery, everything questions. I am Kari the Mortician. So my lead question for this one is, are pets cremated alone? Someone had asked, when I send my dog to be cremated, is he by himself or is he a huge group of dogs that are in there and cats and everything? Like, are they commingled? Are they individual? You can choose which one you want when you leave the vet or when you bring in your animal. It's all dependent on how much you want to spend, truly. They can run the retort just for your animal in there, or they can commingle several animals at a time, divide up the cremated remains and give you back a part. So it's really up to you. Some will space out the animals so that there's an individual pile and they try and keep them as separate as possible. It just depends how each crematory operates. But you can make that choice when you are at the vet's office or when you take in and call to drop off your animal or have them picked up for cremation. So it's really your choice for the most part. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you. Thank you for coming back and for having grace. Seriously, this week is living on grace and coffee. Grace is keeping me going every day this week and just having grace with myself because returning from these trips. So the last 3 weeks, if you haven't been with me and subscribed and kind of followed, which if you don't subscribe, click that button. I have been on a whirlwind of trips for the last 3 weeks. St. Louis and Dubuque and California, just doing video. And I have not started editing any of those big videos because I haven't had time. So now I'm back and I feel like I shouldn't sleep and I should be editing. But I'm trying to have grace with myself that I need to make sure I'm doing some self-care and just a little breath and relaxing and stuff as well. So here I am. I have had all my pets cremated. It's a big question and it's something that you have to decide when your animal dies. I buried my dog when he died. Was it 2 years ago now? Or 3 years ago now? Oh my goodness. I think it's just been 2 years ago. So do individuals, hey Aaron, do individuals ever come to you with things still intact from hospitals, such as IVs, central lines, Yes, they do. Most often when someone's been worked on by like the first responders at a house or a scene, they'll leave like an intubation tube and the patches and everything on. But we do get individuals from the hospital with all of their lines and chest tubes and drainage tubes and IVs and catheters and all sorts of things still in them. So I've heard that there's laws that say you're not supposed to do that. I've never seen the laws. I don't know for sure if there's laws. I don't know if it's just one of those chatter things amongst funeral directors. But some of the lines, it's great to have them in like IVs and such because it keeps the circulatory system closed by having that hole filled while we're injecting. So it's actually not bad to leave it in. I don't like when a full catheter bag is sent. That's gross. I don't know how old the pee is that's being sent and it stinks usually. So some of those things, you can keep them. I don't want them. So it just depends on regulations and rules and such, what is sent. But it's always hard if like the intubation tube is left in because the mouth can get positioned almost too much in that pose and you have to really work to get it out and the teeth can lock around it and then you feel like you're almost going to break the teeth to get it out. So sometimes there is problems. If the pet goes to be cremated, does the crematory do tags like they do humans? It depends on the crematory, but yes, because all the animals would get then their individual number as well. I don't know what they do. I'll have to see what they do for a mass, like the commingled. How they do. I'll have to check on that. A loved one of mine wants to be buried in a dog cemetery. I don't think cemeteries allow that. No, I don't think they do. I don't think they have the space because their spaces are a lot smaller that they have allotted for the burials, whereas humans, cemeteries, they're allotted for large caskets. Can funeral assistant be called in the middle of the night to help funeral director go and pick up the body? Of course, if that's part of their job. If they're on a removal team and they are the people who go bring the loved ones back into the funeral home's care, then yeah, you're on call. Some of them microchipped, but sadly microchips do not survive the cremations. How do I know I'm getting back my pet? It's like you're gonna know if you're getting back your human. You have to just trust that their process is in place to follow your animal through, and that's who you're getting back. Ever been concerned for a person planning or attending a funeral to the point where you've had to reach out to another family member or had to report to emergency services, suicide, or other? Not during the course of the funeral, no. I'm trying to think if there's been any that I've even been concerned about. Not really. No, I've had people through this platform contact me and say they wanted side or they were planning it, and I had to try to, if I knew where they were located, sort of try to call. I've called the police a couple times and said, hey, somebody's told me they want to kill themselves. Here's as much as I know, and passed it on because that's kind of what I have to do. So if you guys think it's awesome telling me you're going to kill yourself, then I have to report it. And it's not me being mean, it's that I have to. You know, I can't be party to somebody killing themselves when it's not legal to do that. People share with me, and I am grateful that everybody feels so trusting in me, but I can't just hold that information, and I'm not a, even a therapist can't hold that in. So, oh, Frank, I'm sorry. I'm splotchy with you, popping in and out. Lots of buffering on my end too. Wonder if maybe I'm having an issue with internet or something. How do you do it when you get someone that is badly decomposed and just smells really bad? Mask, super ventilation system. If they are so bad, we may not even bring them into the building. We may leave them like double bagged, put more powder and stuff inside the bags out in the garage even. We may not bring them into the building because that smell permeates. And if there's nothing we can do for the body because they're at that advanced stage, we'll keep them in a space that they're not going to basically contaminate the rest of the building with that odor. And we'll do everything we can to contain that odor out in a different area. My grandpa just passed away last Thursday. I wanted to take him home for a night, and the funeral home said no. I'm sorry, Kayla. No, they can't stop you. He is yours. They can't tell you no or yes. He is yours to do with what you want, essentially. They can't tell you no. You can't take him home. Like, that's their job, is to facilitate what you want. Just because it's an out of the box thing that they don't do, they should help you accommodate that, help you find a cooling table, or help you understand how to use ice or something to accommodate that. They may feel liability, and that is totally understandable. Because if you bring him home and he starts purging and you have this horrible mental reaction to all of that, you could then come back and sue them. That's the society we live in, and that's how businesses have to think as well. But they could have you sign paperwork and whatever. Like, it can happen for you to be able to do that. But I understand that there's funeral homes that aren't set up and aren't comfortable with that. So it's one of those things, if they won't let you, you got to call somebody else. I'm sure my industry will bash me right now for saying that, but it's true. Like, this is your individual, and you need to take care of them how you want to take care of them. Don't be forced into an embalming. Don't be forced into something. Like, know your rights, know what you should be allowed to do. And this is where funeral homes need to work with people so that they can be more part of what families are wanting. Can you toss cremated remains of animals in the coffin when I die? Well, What I don't know, I don't know. So if I step out of the room and your loved one sneaks them down on the foot under the casket, so be it. Some cemeteries don't allow it. Some states don't allow it. So like, was it just last year? I think New York finally made it legal that you could bury animals in a human cemetery inside a casket or even separately, like cremated remains on somebody's grave. So it was illegal up until then. So you've just know your laws, understand that if the funeral director doesn't know, they don't know. So just that's all I'll say about that. Does the body still have to be dressed up even though it's decomposed? No, it doesn't. There's individuals we don't open, we can't even get the bag open too much because of the smell and stuff. So it really, and that's like extreme advanced, but we're not going to dress them. Unfortunately, there are times where we've laid clothing on top of the bag in the casket because that's as much as we can do. That's like extreme situation is what that is. Drew, don't ask me those questions. What's the weirdest thing you have ever had happen in the funeral business? Weird is so relative. What's weird to you is not weird to me. So for me to come up with something that's weird, I don't know what weird means to you. So that's really hard to answer. If you're afraid of dying, there's nothing I can do. I'm afraid of dying. Terrifies the poop out of me, guys. I think being scared of dying is a very logical fear. It's something we don't know and we will never know until we do it. So we can go jump out of an airplane multiple times and, a parachute. After the first time, you know what it's going to be like the second time. We don't get to do that multiple times with death. We do it once. We get one time to die, done. So it's natural to be terrified of that and everything that comes with it. So I don't know that I can take away fear. You have to find peace within something with it, knowing that maybe your funeral plans are in place for your family, maybe knowing what you want for your disposition, maybe having all your affairs in order, maybe believing in a faith. Something can bring you some peace. But I don't know that there's anything that can take your fears away completely. Have to break in. I found that funeral directors do a lot of volunteering of services, not just including extra time for a viewing, but common things as volunteers. We do. Oh, I didn't even see your question, Leo. Ever been concerned for a person planning or attending? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we do. When people are unclaimed, when the state needs help burying somebody, funeral directors have to do it for free. So we are volunteering our services that we have gone to school and been specialty certified to do and have licenses to do. So we do volunteer a lot. So we get a lot of flack, I think, on one side that we charge whatever we charge because it is a business that's expensive to run. It's not that we're taking home these bank paychecks and we're living this lap of luxury and preying on the families who have lost someone. But on the flip side, we also are caring for people that have no money and need somebody to care for them because there's a person that's dead and nobody to take care of them. Somebody's got to do it. Even if the state's handling it, a funeral home has to facilitate it. So yes, funeral homes donate services throughout the year to different individuals, to veterans organizations, to all these different things, to families of children. I know many funeral homes, many, who do discounted, if not no cost services for all children. That's big. I think it's an awesome thing to donate, but they do that. So you have to look at these good things along with the criticism as well. And I'm not saying there's no reason to criticize the funeral industry in some ways, because there's some jerk people within the funeral business, just like every business, but a lot of good is done. A lot is donated. A lot is given when it comes to that kind of thing too. How deep can a grave be for 2 caskets and a vault? So like a double depth, Damien, is that what you're talking about? Like a double depth grave? Adam says, I find comfort in, I'm playing with my hands a lot today, guys. I don't know why. I find comfort in your channel because of my experience with my mom's funeral. It still bothers me that after she was embalmed, she was green in color. Why would this happen? I would say because she had some jaundice previous, like what was her cause of death? Did she have liver, kidney, any of that type of failure going on before she died? Because if she had some jaundice in her system, it can possibly react to the chemicals, and it creates this green sort of discoloration. There's a bilirubin, is it biliverde? Verde's like green sauce for, oh my goodness. And it creates this weird reaction within the system. And the lights even can react to the body and turn them green. So there's a lot that can happen that we cannot foresee all of it. Hey, Tongan Chef, is that how you pronounce that? Have you ever had a mother and father release their rights to the deceased? I had a friend die in 2017 and his parents lived in Colorado. They gave up rights and left their arrangements to my cousin. You can. They just have to sign off on some things. Anybody, you know, parents, spouses, anybody can kind of give up their rights to being that immediate next to kin for somebody. When you have to pick up a body, you guys use a hearse or the transport van, because I know a funeral assistant that had to go to a military person from the airport and he took the hearse. If we go get a lot of funeral homes, if they go to the airport, because it is a very public moment when you get a military individual off the plane, they will take a hearse out onto the tarmac and they will take a hearse up to the plane because there's people watching. Like it's more of a moment that is not just going to get somebody, bring them back. It is I'm at lack for the word right now. But it is a bigger thing and it is a bigger moment. And so they will do the hearse rather than just a van. I saw a shot that said the burial lot is usually leased for 100 years. Is that true? It depends on, so in America, we don't lease. In other countries, they do have leasing and it's usually like 25-year increments, things like that. America, you basically buy the rights to that lot for your family's lifetime. And so it just gets passed from generation to generation. Hey, Vinny. So my email is Kari@KariNorthey.com. Who takes care of former presidents who die? I know you can go double depth. Can you go deeper? Presidents are all handled. One funeral home is kind of historically handled a lot of the primary, like vice presidents, former presidents, and everyone. For whatever reason, I don't know if they've been vetted or what it is, but they have kind of historically, and it is one of, I think, the SCI firms. And SCI is a large corporation in America for funeral homes, and they're just traditionally who is used. No idea why, but maybe one day I'll interview them. I'll be able to interview them and talk to them about some of those. But I think a lot of that stuff is hush hush as well, because you don't want to give up too many secrets about things. So I'll look into that more. Yes, you can go double depth. I've heard of triple depth cemeteries. I've never seen one. You would have to be in the right soil, water level, everything to be able to go triple deep, because that's really far down. So it depends. Could you sue a funeral home for not giving us the right to see him? I don't know if you need to sue. I don't want to point anybody towards a lawsuit. If a funeral home would not allow you to see somebody that was in their care, that's not okay. You have the right to see your loved one if they have extreme damage, decomposition, something where they are disfigured, then they may dissuade you from seeing them because of that, but they could also have you sign a lot of waivers and all sorts of things. Or they may require that you have them embalmed and reconstruction done before you see them. So you may have to pay for those services to see them where they're not. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to tell you go sue somebody. I'm never going to tell you that, guys, but I'm going to tell you what your rights are. Can a husband and wife be cremated together? I would prefer that one was cremated and then those cremated remains were put in with the second, because otherwise you'd have to literally lay them on top of each other in a container and put them in, because you can't fit 2 containers. And I would feel weird about laying people on top of each other. I'm sure it's been done. I would feel weird about doing that, and maybe disrespectful a little bit, but it would depend on the family and if they requested it, maybe. I had the craziest question asked me. My answer was, you are embalmed, so what is the purpose? This was from a very vain person that asked if she could have her Botox. For real, I was asked this. Oh, if like she could be Botoxed? Well, we have tissue filler. So tissue filler is the Botox of the dead, I think. I need to do a video on this. It's like a gel. It's a liquid that as soon as it touches moisture turns to a gel. And it fills ridges, it fills the whole face. So I could flatten out the face like nobody's business. But it's great for when somebody's really emaciated and they've lost a lot of weight in their face and a lot of that fat layer is gone. So you can fill out around the brow line here, or the ridge line. What do you call this? The brow line. Up through the nose, through the cheeks, up around the mouth. You can just fill out, if this is really bony, you can just kind of fill out around here just to take the edge off. Take the edge off that really jutted bony look. Even in hands, you can just fill out the hands a little bit. So it's the Botox of the dead. I survived the mass shooting in Las Vegas in 2017. 58 people passed, but autopsies were not performed on the victims that passed. They had multiple coroners flown in to assist. They maybe took trajectory and stuff of the deceased, but if they knew they died of gunshots or, bullets, there was no reason to do an autopsy. I'm not sure, because I don't know about that part of that incident. How would you prepare someone for sea burial? Typically unembalmed, and they're wrapped, and then there they go. Hopefully doing some sea burial video eventually. I've talked to the captain of the guy that does the most sea burials in the country, but it's just time to get together with him and interview him. I recently went to a mausoleum that had a very bad smell inside the building. You've got bodies in boxes decomposing inside a building. So even with ventilation and everything, it is still a musty, smelly place. Unfortunately, a lot of them, you'll notice there's a lot of smell things like air fresheners around the room, and may have a lot of ventilation going on. But even the rotting flowers, when people bring flowers and leave them and they start going bad, those will even stink. What paperwork do you suggest a gay couple should sign to have as far as your wish to have the partner plan and execute your funeral? So if you are a couple, any like same sex, not same sex, anything, and you're not married, you need to know the legal laws of your state when it comes to disposition. So some states have common law marriage, but you need to be marked as a common law marriage. You can't just be together forever and then think that's going to be okay when the time of death comes. So make sure you understand what those laws are in your state. Some states have a funeral designation form. So like in Michigan, where I am, there's a funeral designation form for disposition. So I could go and appoint whoever. I could go and appoint Joe Garcia to be in charge of my disposition. I would fill out all the paperwork, get all the things signed, and put it on file at the funeral home. That means when the time that I die comes, Joe can go to the funeral home and say, no, 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 no. her husband, her parents, her whoever are not in charge, pull up the file. There's my information. And I have appointed Joe. It doesn't mean Joe's financially responsible, but it means Joe gets to make the call as to what happens to my body. That is the only legally binding thing in Michigan where you can appoint somebody. You can't just write it in your will. You can't just, make a note. You can't say, oh, I don't want my family contacted and I want Joe in charge. You have to fill out that form. So check in your state as to what the laws are. Or some states, I can go in and say, okay, I want for myself this. Put it on file with the funeral home, and the funeral home has to follow what I said, even after my death. My family can't change it. So you have to know what your state allows because every state is a little different. What happens with the space that was for him, but he opted not to use it? My great-grandparents buried in a small cemetery in Colorado. It's a family plot. There's one space left that was supposed to be for my grandfather. He opted for cremation. That space can be used by anybody in the family that is of equal parts. So let's say, Brenby, that you want to use that space. Everybody who has equal opportunity. So let's say Grandpa died. All of Grandpa's children would have to sign off on who is allowed to be buried in that spot. Because all of the children of that grave owner, let's say Bob was the grave owner. If Bob has 3 children, Mary Sue and Bill all have equal opportunity to have that grave space. So if they're fighting who gets to use it, sorry, nobody gets to use it. But if they all agree that Bill gets to use it when he dies, then Mary and Sue can sign off their rights to Bill to be able to use it. So it passes down to all of the next of kin equally. Same with that next generation of the grandkids. If one of the grandkids needs to use it, then those children still in the second tier all have to sign off that grandkid needs to use, that grandkid needs to or gets to use it. Does that make sense? Yeah, Susan, tell her, make sure she knows she'll be taken care of. Hi, Penny and Adam. Thanks, MC. Okay, I will. Could you be a part of your loved one's cremation? Yes. You can go, you can witness, you can push the button, you can stay during the whole cremation and be there when they pull them out. You can be there during all of it. It may cost, it's going to probably cost more. The reason it costs more is because if a place has maybe 2 retorts, they can't be running them both at the same time. Like that place is basically shut down for you to be there during that time. So it does slow down production and the business. And so they have to charge more. What do most people buy, the seal vault or the box containers no seal? I think at a cost. I find that more people just get the grave liner, which is the basic concrete liner with a flat top on it, and they just go simple. I think that's what I find more of. Hey, Tracy in Michigan. What are the laws or rules concerning the arrangements of someone transgender? This is a huge, oh my gosh, huge discussion right now within the business. Can family demand they be buried as their sex at birth? So huge discussion, huge fights right now, trying to get legislation and rules and laws in place to protect individuals. So this is another situation where if that maybe somebody in Michigan was fearful that their immediate next of kin. So let's say if I was single and I was born a woman, wanted to be buried as a man, wanted to use my new name, not my dead name, all these things, I would maybe, and I was worried my family wouldn't allow it, I would go and I would choose somebody that I trusted to be my funeral designation for disposition. So that way they could carry out my wishes. Every state doesn't have that, but they're trying to put some things in place because yes, there are individuals who the family who didn't agree with the choices of the deceased are coming in and cutting hair, completely changing appearance of the individual and burying them looking the way they wanted them to look. It's not like that's not okay. I understand the family is doing what they feel compelled to do because they didn't believe someone's choice, but I feel like that's also like could be a religious thing. Say you had a child who was Muslim and the family was Catholic, and the family came in and tried to do all of this Christian faith over the deceased when that's not what they believed. And they didn't honor and respect the belief of the individual where they would want to be buried in a Muslim faith way. I think because families are so fractured, because people don't get along within families now, we see these things happen. And as a funeral director, we have to follow the laws and we have to follow the next of kin's wishes, sometimes against what we believe and want to do. I would have some seriously strong conversation with the families and seriously try to dissuade them. But in the end, I have to follow what they want me to do, but maybe we can find a middle ground. Maybe I can change their minds. It's a hard position to be in, to do your job, but it not maybe match up with totally what you feel you could do. I know there's funeral directors who have told families, I'm sorry, I can't serve you because I just can't morally do some of these things or whatever. So it is definitely a challenging position right now. Joe Garcia, he's the one that asked the question about that. So I just referred to him. Hey, Justine in Michigan also. Hey, Frank in Wisconsin. Good morning, Leonard. You're welcome, Joe. Hopefully that answers your question. Hey, Peter. How are you? What is your idea of an over-the-top funeral? Have you ever directed one that you consider to be over the top? No, I don't think I've ever directed one that was way over the top. When you get all these components that I feel are a little superficial, I would consider that over the top, but it's all about the family. If they're feeling like doing all these little things, same with weddings. If they're feeling like doing all these little like things within the ceremony, go for it. You know, I don't know if they're needed or if they're just space fillers or if they think it looks good sometimes. Whatever people feel they need to do, go for it. Nothing comes to mind that I feel like was beyond over the top, but yeah, you can prepay and plan a funeral for your own wishes, but it doesn't mean that that's what your family's going to carry out. Some states, your pre-planning does not have to be followed. Some states it does. So it depends on the state you're in and the laws. What causes a grave marker to turn dark and at times illegible? Sometimes it's just the moss, it's the environment, just things from the air that cling to the rock that turn it dark. Old stone will wear away. Newer granite isn't going to wear away like the old stone that they used to use does. So some of that is because there's no depth to the engraving anymore. So you can't really read it. Yes, Justine, good. Everybody's asking really good questions today. So I'm glad I did the second part. You're welcome. Yeah, I agree. I think people's wishes should be protected by law. I think you should be able to choose for yourself and that it has to be carried out. And if I want to be buried as a man, then I should be buried as a man. And my new name that was legally given should be able to be used on everything instead of my family choosing my dead name and putting that on the pamphlets and everything. Yeah. Oh, Peter, you're busy over in the UK. So Peter has he makes the most amazing food and I'm so jealous. Like I want to come back over. I still like Bubbles and Squeak. Is it Bubbles and Squeak? Yeah. One of the best things I ate when I was over in England. And some days I'm like, oh, I could go for that. It sounds so good. Oh yeah. Some funny, crazy tattoos. The best, honestly, the best was one above a man's genitals and it said, "Here, kitty." You can't make that stuff up, guys. Can't make it up. If I prepay for a funeral, then when I die, what happens with life insurance money? It goes to the beneficiary, to whoever your beneficiary is. Yeah, Bubble and Squeak, great. Oh, it's so good. Like, it makes me want to get on a plane right now and come over and go back to the pub I had it at out in Great Lessenden, and it was just phenomenal. It was so good. So, so good. Well, it's been 35. I'm going to sign off. I don't like to keep these too long. Thank you guys. I'm going to go do a little editing today. I don't know if I'll dive into one of the big videos or not. We'll see how much energy I have today and time. Thank you guys for the support. Make sure if you don't subscribe, hit the subscribe button. It's easy. It's one click. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video. If you have pressing questions, make sure you email them to me. Drop a comment if you just want to respond to something we've chatted about today. We dove into some big topics, which is really great. But drop a comment if you'd like to respond to any of those. And I will see you guys on the next live video. And make sure you check my 2 minutes on Tuesdays and watch for the other bigger videos to come. See you guys soon. Bye.